Chapter 14 is on the presidency. You can see your learning targets at the top of your sheet there. We'll talk again about the differences between American and European systems, how presidents differ from prime ministers, and we'll talk about divided versus united or unified government in the United States. We'll summarize constitutional and political powers of the presidency and how they've evolved over time, and explain the importance of persuasion in presidential policymaking. Finally, we'll talk about presidential character and that impact on policymaking, and then talk about presidential transitions or the vice president. We'll also touch on the first lady as well. But today we will start with the roles of the presidency. I want to go over some basics for your note sheet here. So the executive branch is found in Article 2 of the United States Constitution. And the first part of Article 2 says that the president should faithfully execute the laws of the United States. This is referred to as the Take Care Clause, meaning the president must enforce all constitutionally valid laws regardless of their administration's point of view. Now later on we'll talk about signing statements. Signing statements are when the president can sign a bill into law, but not enforce part of the law. That seems to go against the Take Care Clause, but in courts they've said that if the president believes that parts of the law are invalid, they can make those. Now, Article 2 of the Constitution created the office of the president and the vice president. They laid out some formal qualifications for office. First, you need to be 35 years old. You need to live in the United States for 14 years. And you must be a natural-born citizen, meaning that you are born with citizenship. Though not explicitly stated, the formal requirements for the vice president are the same as those for the president, because it's expected that if something were to happen to the president, that the vice president could step in and would be formally qualified for that role. Now, the other piece is informal requirements or informal qualifications. Those are qualifications that are not written down, they're not found in the Constitution, and they're not required of our candidates for the presidency. But rather, they're things that voters expect to see in candidates for the presidency. Some examples might be education. We often expect that the people running for presidency should have a college degree of some sort, and so on. Political experience in the past has been an informal requirement of the presidency, although in recent years we've kind of seen a rebuttal to that sort of Washington insider idea, and political experience has been seen in a negative light. Now, there's a number of other informal requirements for the presidency. I would like you to brainstorm about 2 to 3 more that you can write down in your box on your note sheet. Now, these are just a few questions I want you to brainstorm. Again, there's room for you to write your answers on the note sheet. What makes a president a good president? What are some of those qualifications or some of those actions? What makes a president popular with the people? There's definitely been presidents that are way more popular with the people than others. What's different about those presidents? And finally, does a president have to be moral in order to be a good president? Now, today we're going to focus on the many roles of the President of the United States. So in the United States, we have one guy, the head of the executive, that acts in many, many different roles. Sometimes these roles are given to a couple people or maybe even a few people within a country's government. But in the United States, the president fulfills all of these roles. So here we have President Obama meeting with his cabinet at a cabinet meeting. Here President Obama is acting in the role as chief executive. As chief executive or chief administrator, President Obama, now President Trump, is the boss of the executive branch. They're the boss of all of their cabinet members who serve as department heads. An example of them acting in this role would be appointing the head of the CIA who will eventually become one of their staff members once approved by the Senate. Here, President Obama welcomes the Indian Prime Minister to the White House. In this slide, he's acting as Chief of State. Chief of State basically means that our president is a living symbol of the nation. They are the face of the United States of America. Some examples of the president working in this role would be making a patriotic speech, greeting visitors like the Indian Prime Minister to the White House, and so on. Here, President Obama signs a treaty with a Russian leader. In this slide, he's acting as the head of the foreign affairs, essentially. They're acting as chief diplomat. So a chief diplomat decides what the United States should say to foreign governments, and they act as the head of foreign policy, often negotiating treaties and so on. The next slide here, President Obama discusses the potential use of drones in the Middle East. Here he's acting in the role of Commander-in-Chief. As Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States is the head of the U.S. Armed Forces. For example, they command generals. They're the boss of all Army generals and admirals. They decide when to drop bombs, where to drop bombs, when to send in troops, and so on. In this slide, President Obama gives a speech to Congress asking them to pass the Affordable Care Act. In this slide, he's acting as the chief legislator, urging Congress to pass new laws or to sign things into law. The president will sign bills or he may veto them. So some examples: making a speech to Congress, like you see pictured here, signing a bill, vetoing a bill, and so on. Here, President Obama agrees to speak at the rally for the election of the Democratic Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth during her campaign. I'm skipping a line here, but here he is acting as the chief of party. As chief of party, our president is the head of their political party. They may travel to rallies and speak at those events, campaign for other candidates for federal office, and so on. Here, Obama discusses a plan with Congress to decrease the unemployment rate. Here, he's acting as our chief economist. The President of the United States is concerned with unemployment, taxes, and so on. So an example of him acting in this role would be meeting with business and labor leaders to discuss various issues. Another term that's sometimes used interchangeably with chief executive is chief administrator. So when talking about the bureaucracy, the president is the boss of the executive branch, and that includes the bureaucracy. Here, President Obama is meeting in the Oval Office with members of the NASA team. Another term that you'll sometimes see that kind of goes with chief of state is chief citizen. Here, President Barack Obama is mourning with victims of Hurricane Sandy and the destruction that caused. So the president is often present at traumatic events like this, whether it be natural disasters or school shootings or so on. So here they're acting as chief citizen. They're again kind of a living symbol of the nation, a face that the American people want to see at events like this. So what you're going to be doing for the rest of today and then tomorrow as well is working on presidential paper dolls. They're going to be due on Thursday and you will present them to the class. So what you're going to do in a group of 2 to 3 is pick a president. You can't pick President Obama, as I just covered many of those actions, and you can't pick President Trump, as he still has many years to work on fulfilling those roles. So I do want you to pick a more recent president, though, someone that has served since the 1900s. So pick a president. I want you to sign up with the substitute so that we don't have duplicates. So I'll have a sheet for you to sign up on. Now with your paper dolls, you are going to give your dolls clothes and a hat that represent each of their roles. So some people refer to the roles of the presidency as the many hats that our president wears. You're going to give them a hat. You also need to pick an action, and that action needs to be specific. So that's going to require some research. So, like I gave you examples for Barack Obama, you are going to do the same thing for the president that your group picks. So on the back of your paper doll, you'll write what the action was. And then on Thursday, we'll present these in the class. You'll explain how your doll matches with your role and what your president did to fulfill that role. Now, we will finish up Chapter 14 notes on Thursday. Prior to class on Thursday, you should read the chapter and answer the following questions. If you have any questions regarding the roles of the president and the presidential paper dolls project, feel free to send me a message on Schoology, and I will be quick to respond to you in regards to that. I also expect that your note packet, the first page, both front and back, should be filled out and ready to go when I come back tomorrow for class. All right, that'll be all for today. So go ahead and get into groups. You guys can choose your partner, pick your president, and then today you should get a lot of your research done so that tomorrow you can get those paper dolls put together. Have a great rest of your day.